Today my project is making a hypertufa planter. This is made out of cement, peat moss, and perlite. It's lighter than solid cement, but it's more giving for planting herbs and, well, really anything that you want depending on how deep it is. So come along and I hope you enjoy this. My mixture here is using 2 parts peat moss, which I already have in there, 1 part Portland cement. I'm going to be adding, look at all the powder going on, or the dust from the Portland cement. That's why you want to wear a mask when you're mixing. And then I'm going to use 3 parts perlite. This is a very important part. You must make sure it's all mixed up well, because you don't want clumps of peat moss or chunks of perlite separate from the Portland cement. You want it all mixed in well. So take your time. I mean, this might take 5 or 10 minutes to mix it. I had 2 other attempts of making hypertufa plants. The first one was a disaster. Instead of using peat moss, I used wood shavings, which I thought would work out really well, and it never set up. So it is now in my garden in parts where I don't want any weeds to grow. So this time I'm using a tried and true recipe. My second attempt was a very small pot, which worked out quite well. Now the last one is 1 part water, and you might need a little bit more. I'm going to start with that, mix that up a little bit, and you just keep mixing until you have the proper consistency, which I will show you. You don't really need me to do all of this on camera, because I think all of you know how to mix. Just add a little bit of water at a time. You may need more depending on if it's humid outside or your conditions. This is September, end of September in the Midwest. It's starting to get cool out. So this may be the last project that I'll be able to make outside, because of course when it gets below temperatures, cement doesn't set up the right way. So I will stir this up until I have the right consistency and then show you then. I had to use about 1 3/4 parts water in order to get it to firm up. So when you have it to the point where it can hold a ball, then you've got the right mixture to start building your planter. You can take your mask off now that everything's mixed. That powdery substance from the Portland cement is gone. So you need to form the bottom. Right here I have just an ordinary box, a cardboard box, and I have plastic on the inside, and I want little wrinkles and everything on the outside. I want it to be interesting. I don't want it to be straight and flat. If you want it to be straight and flat, you would just use a regular cement all or solid cement, but this is going to be a creative type of pot. So I'm putting at least 1 inch on the bottom, maybe a little bit more, and I'm doing it in small increments so that I can firm it up as I go along. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to just poke a hole to see how thick I'm getting. Yep, it's about 1 inch. I think I'm going to do the corners here a little bit more. And then I'll start building the sides. This takes some time, but it's well worth it. When I just start building the sides, I'm going to be building it all along 1 row and then flipping it around and doing the next row, and you want it at least 1 inch thick, if not 1.5 inches thick, so it will hold up better. If you make a project much larger than this, then you're going to have to use some kind of a steel reinforcement, be it chicken wire in between, like you put a real thin layer on, lay the chicken wire on the sides and the bottom, and then continue putting the layers on after that to give it support. I'm about halfway done, but there's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about. When you use the Portland cement, what I was nervous about is because of COVID, I bought the cement and I didn't look at the date that it was created. And when I made my disaster with the wood chips, I thought, uh-oh, the Portland cement is bad. It was dated November 2020, and now we're in September 2021. But when I made a small hypertufa, I realized it was my error and that the cement was fine. I've also created other things with that cement. It's 94-pound bag, and it's only supposed to be about 8 months to a year that it's good. And I'm not having any problem with this. But I just wanted to mention, you may want to check the use by date, or the date that it was created, before buying it, to make sure that you don't do all of this work and then turn out with an unsuccessful project. Well, I had to stop and get some duct tape because my sides started bulging out, and I don't want to have a problem with that later. It's just the cardboard was a little too flimsy, and my hypertufa is a bit heavy, so that way it'll offer a little bit more support. I've also been dipping my hands in a little bit of water when I'm forming this, because I just want to make sure everything's sticking to each other. It's not too much, it's just a little tiny bit of water when I'm adding more. Now I am adding 2 drainage holes in the bottom, which also allows me to make sure that it's thick enough, spraying it liberally with water, and then I will be covering it with 2 pieces of plastic and letting it sit for 48 hours before unveiling and doing the next step. I waited 48 hours to unveil this just because it's such a tall planter. I wanted to make sure it had plenty of time to set. So I'm taking off the plastic. Looks pretty nice. Let's see what happens. Oh, that came out really easy. Let's flip it over. And there's going to be a couple crumbs that are coming off. It's still very fragile at this point. I love the creases on the outside from my plastic that I had on the inside. It looks like I might have to put a little bit deeper, well, drill the rest of the holes. It's almost all the way through, but there's a little bit that I have to drill in the bottom. If you want, you can take a rasp and smooth off the edges, but I really like this natural look. My last step is to water it down real good when you like the final look of it. So I'm going to water it down, cover it back over with plastic, and wait 2 to 3 weeks before using it. If you want to wait a little bit longer, that certainly wouldn't hurt. Flaky though. Flip it back over. And it just fell apart. Hey, thanks for watching me make my hypertufa planter. If you like what you see, click that like button and subscribe to my channel. Till next time.